Do you feel unstoppable on attack? You and your teammates are running around taking sites and killing every enemy in sight. Then the second you swap to defense, it all comes falling down, like pulling the wrong block out of Jenga. This is because attacking in Valorant is very straightforward. Kill all the enemies or plant the spike and watch it blow up like your insta-lock Reyna complaining after you lose a pistol round. Now you might think, isn't defense the same? We just have to defuse the spike or kill all the enemies. While that is accurate, defense rounds require moving around the map in a synchronized chain, making it more likely that you or your teammates will make round-losing mistakes.
No.
So to help you out, I will cover ranked players' 7 most common mistakes on defense with quick and easy ways to fix them in this video. Watch to the end for the #1 reason you're stuck in your rank. Also real quick, if you play at least 2 to 3 comp games a day, your rank is below Radiant, and you've been struggling to rank up, I have a crazy offer for you. I run the Immortal Roadmap program, which is the #1 live coaching program that will teach and help you implement everything you need to hit Immortal Plus in 8 weeks. We're so confident in our coaching that we are the only coaching program that offers a 5-division rank up in 8 weeks guarantee or your money back. We've helped hundreds of students hit Immortal and Radiant, and our coaching staff consists of myself and over a dozen Radiant coaches with VCT experience. If that offer sounds good to you, click the link below to sign up because only 11 spots remain. Now, back to the video. Starting off with reason #1 of why you struggle on defense is you always start playing on site and never consider starting in more aggressive positions. It doesn't matter if you play Sentinel, Controller, or Initiator. If you constantly find yourself starting in passive positions on defense, you will lose. The easiest and most simple way to have a successful defense is by breaking the map into 3 phases. Phase 1 is your most aggressive phase. In this phase, you have 3 goals. #1, you can make the enemies work to take the space by denying them info with smokes. #2, you can use abilities to gather info for your team. Or #3, take early fights and break enemy utility. For example, smoking and holding the end of showers is extremely effective instead of Ferrari peeking as Brim.
Pocket.
Or when getting info, sky flash down B long. And if you hear the enemy sky using your dog, you can try to quickly break it before it scales up too close to the site. Remember, the goal is putting yourself in a position to get kills in these early phases, but also making the enemy waste their abilities early into the round so they have less utility available during the site hit. Phase 2 is when the enemy uses so much util that they force you back. This allows you to be in safer positions on site, but it's crucial that you're aware of your surroundings. Did your insta-lock Reyna peek hookah and die? Do they have ults that can kill you? If you're aware of these things, this will determine if you should stay on site and fight or dip into phase 3. Phase 3 is the safest area, like CT or elbow on bind. This is where you fall back when you think the enemy can kill you on site, your team has ults to retake, or because you killed their smokes and can hold from deeper lines. Being able to determine how to play each of these phases on defense requires you to fix the second reason why you struggle on defense, which is inadaptability. You load into ranked games and start b-hopping around inspecting your knife while watching my latest YouTube video or scrolling through TikTok. The barriers drop and you get hit by a Phoenix Flash you weren't ready for, and now you're wondering where it all went wrong. You wonder why you can't be more consistent on defense and stuck in your rank for months. It's because winning on defense starts the second you load into the game. The first thing you need to do when loading into the game is look at both team comps. This is crucial as it determines how you should position yourself and how the enemy can counter you and your team. So what are the key things you need to be aware of? Does the enemy team have a drone or scan agent? Do the enemies have flashes? Do the enemies have a movement agent? Do the enemies have real smokes? What about your teams? What kind of smokes do we have? Do we have agents that can deny the enemy from taking space? Do we have flashes? Understanding your team comp and the enemy team composition comes second nature to Radiant players. By considering the enemy team comp, we can make sure, for example, not to hold smokes when flashes are in play.
Joke's over!
We can util dump against the enemy team if they don't have a jet or raise to create space. Or we can play in rattier off angles, understanding there's no drone on the enemy team to clear corners. After you load into your ranked games and see the comp you're playing against, you can easily create plans and be more aware in the pre-round, and in turn, winning more rounds on defense. Now that you're awake and trying to win from the start, we need to know where to position ourselves to get the maximum impact. Which brings me to #3, which is not playing to your agent's strengths. Do you wonder why Radiant ranked players go towards a similar starting position on defense? This is because some agents have areas of the map where their abilities get maxed value. Think of Haven flashing down C long as Omen, darting A main as Sova, and even Raze nading through TP on bind. Playing on C as Omen lets you blind down C long in a straight line as attackers are coming in. Darting a main at the start of the round as Sova will let you contest the most important area of Haven, and it gives you the option to grab a free ult orb if no enemies are there, and even going for a fast flank or rotate. Raze playing on A site bind lets you fight both short and hookah at the same time, as your nade will open up the teleporter door as you TP. This does not mean you only start in positions like these. You always adjust where you're playing based on previous round tendencies, econ, ultimates, and what your team is struggling with. It would help if you were thinking about 3 things when deciding where to start: your abilities, where you think the enemy will go, and how your abilities can counter that. This gives you ideas on where to position yourself at the start of rounds. If you autopilot and start towards the same position every round, but the enemy is never coming to your area, you're asking the Valorant gods to have your teammates carry you. Okay, now our brain is starting to work and we're thinking about more than just headshot, whiff, and we know where our agents are best used. This brings us to our 4th reason why you're struggling on defense: not understanding when to rotate or take space. Reason number 4 is the most common mistake I see with low elo players on defense. Starting towards one side of the map to play your agent's strength is fine, but when enemies don't come near them, they have zero idea when to rotate or take space. This is another reason why you're having zero impact on defense. You need to take space as a defender, but how do you decide when to take space versus rotate to help your team? Like I said in other videos, Valorant will never be black and white with what you should do. Here's the best and most efficient way to understand when you need to rotate or push to take space. Have your teammates been able to stop the enemy team's rush? If yes, we should take space. If not, we should rotate. Has the enemy mowed down your teammates in previous rounds? If yes, we should rotate. If not, we should take space. Does the enemy always hit the site they first make noise at? If yes, we should rotate or take space. Does your team already have 4 players on the other side? If yes, we should take space. Do your teammates have good abilities that will stop the rush, like mollies or ultimates? If yes, we should be taking space instead of rotating. Thinking like this is instinctual to Radiant players, but the position you put yourself in when taking space is more important. First, you want to know the map you're playing on and the paths the attackers must take when they leave the site. If we're playing on Ascent and the attacker started towards B, but our teammates stopped their rush, they can take 2 routes: back through spawn or tiles to mid. If you're the A player, would you want to peek off cat and fight 5 people swinging into you? Of course not. You want to put yourself in a position like top mid or behind this generator for 2 reasons. Number 1, no player in ranked is shift walking through spawn, and when you position yourself top mid, you'll hear them rotating. You can tell your teammates to rotate earlier towards A, but more importantly, be able to get multi-frags. And number 2, when you swing off cat and try to fight the enemy, you're taking raw aim duels. And if it's versus 5 people, it doesn't matter if you're El Diablo, you'll lose it every time. Playing behind the generator allows you to play trigger discipline, and instead of maybe getting 1 kill, now you're in a position to get 2 or even 3. When thinking about this on any map, your goal is to avoid being where the enemy crosshair will be looking at while they're rotating towards you. You won't be able to do this 100% of the time on defense rounds, but the more you can do it, the more impact you'll have. Now, if you've waited to see if the enemies will rotate back to you, but your teammates call that the enemy team is rushing B, then it's time to rotate by flanking them. Now, ask yourself if this is you. While you're rotating or flanking the enemies, are you playing a support agent and you never think about how your abilities can help your teammates? This brings us to reason number 5, not supporting your teammates with your abilities. What should you do when your team calls that the enemies are rushing B site on Ascent? Should you pray your KJ can win the round for you? Of course not, that's completely out of your control. Suppose you're playing a support agent like an initiator or controller. In that case, you should be staring at the minimap and seeing your teammate's position and how your util can help that player. Is your KJ backside B? Give them a smoke on site to play in and around. It helps them stay alive longer, which helps your team get on site before the bomb gets planted. We should still be smoking B main first, as this helps our teammates coming out of CT market, but if you have a second smoke, that's when you give your teammate the site smoke. Doing this will increase your win rate on support agents and helped me have a 70% win rate on Omen in Radiant lobbies. Or let's say you're playing Sova or KO. Again, look at the minimap and understand your teammate's position. If you get to a point where you can dart or flash, you should throw it to help that teammate. But please call what ability you're throwing. KJ, I'm flashing for you. Or I darted, get ready to spam. If you don't have any support abilities, the main goal is getting on site. However, don't mindlessly run out if your teammate is already dead on site. A rule of thumb to follow is if your teammate is on site fighting, then try to get on site and fight with them. But if your teammate dies on site, then wait for your teammates to retake the site. If we decide to retake, the enemy will have time to plant the spike and get into post-plant positions. Bringing us to the 6th biggest reason why you struggle on defense. You don't have a clear plan of how to retake the site. Retaking is a massive part of playing defense and one that you need to understand if you want to win more rounds. Even with 45 seconds to defuse a spike, you still need a sense of urgency. At the bare minimum, you have to kill all players alive and defuse a spike. That can take roughly 15 to 20 seconds. Now add on ultimates and even mollies, that's another 10 to 15 seconds. And suddenly, you have no time left. Valorant will never be black and white when it comes to what you should do in specific scenarios, and this doesn't mean you need to knife out and run out on site. Instead, you must be methodical and recognize the order of operations to defuse a spike, like PEMDOS. Key factors you must be aware of are, do we know where the enemies are? What type of util do I or my teammates have? What ults or mollies does the enemy team have? And knowing how much time do we have left. Being aware of these factors will dictate how fast you should go. For example, if they have Brim and Sova ult, we need to get out ASAP and tap the spike to bait out the ults. On the flip side, if there's only one person left and they just planted, we have plenty of time to kill them and defuse the spike. Once you know what needs to happen to win the retake, you should communicate what type of abilities you have left. Do you have an Omen blind? Do you have a dart coming up in 3 seconds? Did you just get a kill and get KJ ult? Remember, in a perfect world, your teammates will understand the abilities you have left and wait for you to use them. But this is Valorant ranked, and it's the furthest thing from perfect. So to avoid your teammates peeking before you use your KJ ult or before your dart comes up, we must communicate what abilities we're about to use. And if they peek anyway after you called it, as a wise man FNS once said, all good. This exact scenario though is our 7th and biggest reason why you might be stuck in your rank, not understanding when to take fights versus playing safe. Players think they're prime optic yay and need to kill everyone to rank up and hit Immortal, but that couldn't be further from the truth. There's nothing more frustrating than watching a student's VOD back and seeing them peak and lose fights in a 5v3, and when I asked them, what do you think went wrong here? The response is something like, my crosshair placement was bad. While that might be true, they're completely missing the point. In 5v3s, you need to play passive instead of trying to prove you have better mechanics than Timmy Tenders. As we talked about in these 6 mistakes keep you hard stuck in Valorant video, understanding when and how to peek off your teammate's contact is the easiest way to secure those 5v3 rounds. In 3v5s, you must play aggressive to get the round into a winnable state. This means you don't knife out and run into mid looking for fights, but if the enemy will give you a 1v1, you should take it. If you're ever in a 2v5 and think the play you're about to make is brain dead, well, there's a good chance you're making the right play. Good aim and mechanics are fundamental to ranking up and improving. If you watch my 46-minute video that covers every Valorant mechanic, I guarantee you'll improve your mechanics to get out of your rank. But remember, positioning yourself for those fights and understanding a good versus bad one is even more critical. Remember, on defense, giving the attackers 50-50 aim duels is exactly what attackers want. A chance to put the round into a 5v4 or even a 4v4 without using any of their abilities. And even on attack, if you're only relying on all aim and no brain, you'll spend most of your rounds spectating Timmy Tenders shaking in their boots trying to clutch the round. Rome wasn't built in a day, so pick one of these 7 mistakes to work on for your next rank game and slowly fix each mistake. Thanks for watching.